Welcome back to another episode of Sal and Pals Go to the Movies. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hello, hello.
And today we're going to be reviewing the new rebooted Hellboy. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. Based on the graphic novel by Mike Mignola, Hellboy, caught between the worlds of the supernatural and human, battles an ancient sorceress bent on revenge. So let's start off by just stating the obvious, as this movie, it's rebooting the franchise of Hellboy. So in this movie, Hellboy is played by David Harbour, and most people know him from the sheriff from Stranger Things. We also have the Blood Queen, played by Mila Jovovich. We also have Daniel Dae Kim, who plays Major Ben Daimyon. Most of these people, you either seen them in other movies or shows. So with that, let's get our review started. So we're going to start off by going down like I normally do, down my pros and cons. So start off with the pros. The movie kept true to the comic, I would say. I didn't see anything that can throw me in for a loop or get me mad about it not being accurate. There was 2 post-credit scenes, but the makeup was pretty good. I really enjoyed the beginning of the movie when he went to rescue his friend, his agent in Mexico. What I liked about that scene was one thing. Since the movie's about supernatural things like Hellboy being from hell and he's on the side of the humans and stuff like that, he went to Mexico and there's luchadors who are hiding their identity behind their masks. At the same time, this is basically what he was doing by covering his face with his sweater. And in the corner of the rings, we see posters or banners. They paid homage to a true Mexican wrestler whose name is The Saint or El Santo, who back in the days, he was a real wrestler and came out in movies. Some of the movies were cheesy, as The Saint versus the Mummies or The Saint versus the Vampires and stuff like that, which we saw some of those movie posters up around the ring paying homage to him. I like the idea of them playing with the words The Saint and Hellboy kind of thing, and also when they started fighting in the ring, the rock song was playing in Spanish. So that was kind of a moment caught me by surprise, and I started kind of giggling, seeing it was kind of a nice feel to it. Other than that, let's go with some of the cons now. The cons, I really couldn't get over the fact that they used so much CG and visual effects in the movie, to the point where in the credits I actually counted 8 studios who were part of the visual effects group. And when you have 8 companies working together, even though if it's the same company but different branches, you're not in the same place to basically collaborate and talk about what you're doing. So in that sense, some of the graphics might not match up properly or blended. For example, when he's hunting the giant, we see some scenes that are really amazing and breathtaking, but then all of a sudden we see another clip or of him riding the giant and you're like, hey, that looks like really messed up, because I can actually tell that it's 2 layers or it's not really blended. Jokes were there, which is a pro. Again, Hellboy is always a funny character, so he's always making smart ass jokes. To me, he actually was Hellboy. A lot of people I've read or said that he didn't have the same punch as Perlman, but to me, it's like they did their work. They did it pretty good. The story, not that interesting. It was just a end of times kind of plot, and then them throwing King Arthur in there kind of really didn't do it up for me. So I mean, I guess that's my review. So I'm going to throw it to Touly and see how he saw the movie.
Let me just say that for anybody who hasn't gone to watch this film by the time you guys come across this podcast review, I want to save you the money by telling you guys that you shouldn't go watch this film. If you want to see something that coherently works well in a film, and by that I mean pacing, storytelling, Sal mentioned CGI works, the music, the plot, the origin. There were things that I normally complain about a film would dock it some points for being an A+ film. Things that would range, let's say, in the 6 to 8 point scale, with maybe a few major flaws that would, dock it down some points. This film actually took it a step farther, and the things that I normally look into a film that I would expect to be there, they just weren't. I'm not sure it was attributed to the change of actor. Sal brought it up that the original actor who played Hellboy in the first 2 movies of the franchise, he wasn't in this film. You correct me if I'm wrong, Sal, but I think they switched director, and he said that he didn't want to be a part of this film because if the original director wasn't going to be there as well. So because of this, they reached out to another guy, and of course that was David Harbour, who of course Sal mentioned is from Stranger Things, if you're familiar with his work there. yeah, so many things went wrong. And the one thing that I tend to say a lot when I criticize a film that I don't like, and I think Sal can speak to this truth, is when they rely way too much on flashback, on trying to cover up something or to conveniently catch you up to speed. To me, it is a tool in your storytelling toolbox that you can rely maybe once, maybe twice in a film, but you keep relying it too heavily. And at the rate that they were doing it too, it wasn't just like 10 minutes here and then another 20 minutes later they do a flashback. It seems so constant that it was just lazy storytelling. And I'm always preaching that if you can't show me what's happening and you have to rely on telling me, not just through dialogue but through flashbacks, it tells me that you don't have a sense of control of where you want your story to go or how you want to execute it. That's a big no-no for me. If you can't execute without relying too much on flashback, that's gonna dock you a lot of points. But that's only one of the big things that I found wrong with Hellboy. Again, because of that, the pacing was all in whack. The acting, strangely enough, I guess the acting for at least some of the characters, or at least a few of the characters, they were all right. I hate to admit it, but I think Mila did an okay job as playing the Blood Queen. But she has this tendency to be in bad films, and this isn't an exception either. It is a bad film. I'd say the only thing that I sort of liked, or should I say I found shocking and was kind of in awe when I saw it happened, was the amount of gorish things happening on screen, or at least to that level. That took me surprised. I guess I could attribute it to being a good thing about the film, but it's sort of those things where when you see it happen, you're like, oh, okay, I didn't expect it, but I guess I'll take it. I think that's the only thing that I could say that was positive for me in this film. The two after credit scenes, maybe trying to tease a spin-off, whether a movie or a TV series or a streaming service series, because this film failed in so many regards that it didn't encourage me to want to watch any spin-offs if there were any. It's just a shame because Hellboy, even though I don't know a lot about him, I didn't read the comics, I did watch the first two films. I thought he was an alright character. Like, I didn't hate him or anything. Was he like one of my favorite heroes, if you want to put him in that light, of all time? No, but you know what? I was on board with him. Like, I wanted to follow his story and stuff, but this movie sort of took his character a step down for me. And when something like this, like a reboot, does that, I think it has done the character wrong. So I feel bad for Hellboy, for people who are fans of him, for a reboot like this to put him in this sort of light. I think it was an injustice to his character. And like Sal said too, the whole connection with his bloodline with King Arthur and stuff, had it been executed better, I would have been down with it. But again, execution was so off in so many regards that I just didn't find myself rooting for anybody. If at worst, I was rooting for the bad guy at that point. So when that happens, something is definitely wrong. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend anybody go watch this film if you were considering going to watch it. Just save yourself the money. Wait until it comes out on Netflix or whatever and just have it on the background.
Totally agree with you on that point. Talking back on your point of why they casted a different Hellboy, from what I've heard is Ron Perlman, he got tapped to replay Hellboy, but since Guillermo del Toro was not involved in the film, he opted out and said that he would only work if Guillermo del Toro was on board with the film. And since it was a new director and it was a reboot, they decided not to have Guillermo back on, and so Ron said, I'm gonna pass. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but from what I saw, it pretty much played into that. Like you said about the two ending scenes, one of them was teasing Ape Sapien, which in the original Guillermo del Toro one, he comes out. He's played by Doug Jones. Doug Jones is always in Guillermo del Toro's movies as different creatures. We see him in Pan's Labyrinth. He's there too. it's kind of it's like force feeding us that, stay tuned. This is going to take off soon. It's going to take off soon. And at the end, like, it's a mild roller coaster at best. I did enjoy the fact that the pig in the movie, at one point, he was actually an actual costume. But later on in the movie, it turned into a CG character. And I was like, wait, if this was a Guillermo del Toro movie, these people would be in costumes and latex and everything. And that's what I like. I mean, call me old fashioned, but I'm still the same guy who really likes to enjoy the old Yoda who was the puppet, versus the CG Yoda. But I think that's just my personal opinion. But at the same time, I share the same points of view as Touly that, save your money. This movie, it tried to do its best. Like Touly said, Mila did a good job, so it's not her fault the movie was bad. I think the movie was just bad since the script was written and the casting started, not having Ron on board and other people and going with the storyline. Whoever gave the okay, which sometimes, we can say that it's on the comic creator, which he was involved in both films. He was one of the writers. I'm like, yeah, he probably wanted to stretch the boundaries and see how far he can take it. But like I said, and Touly says, I just save your money. So with that, I'm going to ask Touly for his final grade of the movie.
3 out of 10. That's all I have to say.
I'm going to go with a 5 out of 10 because it's a movie based on a comic. And what I want you to do is go watch the old Guillermo del Toro movies from 2004 and 2008, I believe, and then watch this one and make up your minds. So it's not, I'm not saying that you shouldn't see this movie. I'm just saying you should go see the other two before you see this one and then make up your mind. Because I don't want to basically deprive you of the stuff that we saw. Even if it's bad, I want you to see it with your own eyes. I don't want to describe the wreckage. I want you to see the actual wreckage. So with that, I guess this does it for our review of Hellboy. Please join us next time when we are going to review Avengers Endgame.
Hi, is anyone home? This is Scott Lang. We met a few years ago at the airport in Germany. Got really big.
Is this an old message?
Ant-Man, I know you know that.
It's the front door.
That's me. Can you buzz me in?
Remember, social media is down in the description. Click and subscribe. And remember, keep watching movies.